Hey there, everybody. It's Ericka Sallee of True Synergy. Welcome back to my channel. You know, True Synergy is a personal coaching and professional development company where I help women and organizations to figure out what stands in the way of their success. And of course, if these are conversations that interest you, then I do encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and share it out and then turn those notifications on so that you are in the know when new videos are uploaded. So the topic for today is mood swing. You know, I know that all of us have moments in time where we just don't feel like ourselves. Case in point, this was a moment for me here as I speak to you now. I woke up this morning and I was just kind of feeling a little out of it. And one of the things that started it off was I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I looked at the clock and I realized that perhaps my son wasn't moving around, getting himself ready for school. And as it turns out, he did not hear his alarm go off. So I woke him up and, you know, made sure he started to get himself moving, and I laid back down and I said, let me just, you know, close my eyes for just a little bit and just kind of rest and before I start getting the day moving. So I laid there and I started with some of the gratitudes and listening to some of the devotional things that helped me to get started for the day. And then I started to get up and get moving, and I realized I was moving a little bit slower than what I usually do. And so I'm getting myself dressed, and I knew that this was the, you know, start of a brand new day. I wanted to get my workout in, and I'm still moving slow, still moving slow. And as I'm getting myself into the mood very, very slowly, I realized that I started thinking about all kinds of different things happening in my space right now, and you know, assessing some relationships and just all that kind of stuff started to swarm over me. And I could feel like this little bit of weightiness trickling in. And I thought, okay, so I want to make sure that as I go through the day that I'm recognizing this. You know how sometimes you kind of get in that space or you feel yourself moving into a space that doesn't feel good. And the first thing we need to recognize is, you know what? I'm not quite feeling myself. In this moment, I'm not quite feeling the way that I want to feel or that I'm used to feeling, and just giving ourselves that moment of acknowledgement. And so I wanted to share just a few things that helped me to move from this space that I was in when I first started the day. And you know, here on this channel, one of the things that's important is to talk about this idea of transformation. And a lot of times we think about transformation from the perspective of trying to do the big thing, whether it's start a business, whether it's, you know, purchasing a home, a car, losing weight, writing a book. All of those things can be big transformational moments in our lives. But the other part of transformation is the moment to moment shifts that we need. This was one of those for me. Like in the moment where I woke up and I started feeling like my mood was going in a direction that I really wasn't too comfortable with, I knew that I had to make a shift. I knew that I had to use everything that I could in my power to make that transformation. And so one of the things that was important for me to kind of shift out of that little oh ho hum kind of glum feeling was to begin to move. Now remember, I said I was getting ready for exercise, and there was also a part of me that was saying to yourself, oh, you know, you don't have to do it today. But I had to push myself because I knew, number one, that this movement is part of my goal for my own physical health and well-being. But I also knew that I needed a shift to change that mood that I was starting to feel myself in. So let me read this to you really quickly. I wanted to make sure that I was clear about the fact that exercise does change your mood. Now, you can determine whatever level of movement is best for you. Some people do low intensity, some people do high intensity, some people do a combination of the two. But whatever is right for you, your body, and your health needs is very important. So let me read this. The levels of chemicals in the brain, such as serotonin, stress hormones, and endorphins, change when you exercise. Regular exercise can help you sleep better, and good sleep helps you to manage your mood. Now, this was a trigger for me this morning. Whatever happened, whatever time you happen to see this video, this was a trigger for me. The last sentence was very important, and that is, good sleep helps manage your mood. Well, when I read that, I realized, last night I did not get as much sleep as I needed to get. Do you know why? Well, I was up binging on something that I'm like really into. There's a show on Netflix and I'm like really into it. It's an awesome show. And so I realized that because I was watching that I actually got to bed later than what I should have. And so when I read that statement, I'm like, oh, there you have it. Like when we start to try to figure out why we're feeling some kind of way or what we're experiencing, sometimes we have to backtrack and say, well, what was I doing before this? And so that was one of the things that was important to me. So getting up and making sure that I got my movement in. Then here's another thing. When you feel like you're in a certain kind of mood, it's always helpful to give yourself some light. Now, that can come in a number of different ways. I realized that at one point in my workout, I was actually laying on the floor and I was doing the scissor kicks. And as I was doing that, the light from the side door in my basement, the sun was shining so brightly. And I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sun just feels good. I couldn't physically feel it, but the mental drenching of the sun over me just felt really good in that moment. And it was warm and it was warming me and shifting me from that space. So sometimes when we are feeling some kind of way or we know that we're not quite feeling up to par or feeling like ourselves, sometimes we just have to shine a light on ourselves. And that light can come from whether it's actually the sun shining on you, or sometimes that light may come from a person who can lift you, who can help, navigate you through that moment. Sometimes that light may come because you're offloading something that's on your mind and someone can just say, hey, I'm here for you. What do you need? How can I help? Or you might just say, I don't need anything. I just needed to get it off my chest. That's where that light can come in. And then the last thing that was important for me in this moment was that I had to sit down and be still after my workout. And this is traditionally what I do after I finish working out. I just like to sit and I meditate. And as I was listening to one of the meditations that I have listed on my phone, I actually have a catalog that I keep in the notes section of my phone. And I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's just a list of different types of meditation. So there's one that I tap into often. It's just a 5-minute meditation that I found on YouTube. And as I was listening to it, one of the most important things helped me in that meditative state, and that was the notion of gratitude. I talk about it often in various conversations. I talk about it with my clients, but gratitude is something that can shift us because a lot of times our mood is dictated by the things that we don't have. Let's just be honest. A lot of times our mood is dictated by the things that we don't have because we're focused on it and we're thinking about, oh my gosh, I don't have this, I don't have that. But gratitude brings us present to the things that we do have. And as I'm listening to the meditation and I'm breathing, I'm like, oh my gosh, gratitude. I had to shift back. Now, I started the morning with gratitude by saying, oh my gosh, thank you for another day. Thank you that I can put my feet on the floor. Thank you that I can get up and I can begin to move around. That's how I started. But even with that, I realized that my mood was still a little bit funky. And so in the meditation, when that moment of gratitude came back, I'm like, oh, there it is again. It was just the thing that I needed to shift me back to say, okay, you know what? You may be thinking about all the things that feel like puzzle pieces aren't fitting together or things aren't this way or things aren't that way. But when you think about gratitude, and you say, oh my gosh, and you literally start to expand on all of the things to be grateful for. Grateful that I even had an opportunity to sit still and to be grateful that, yes, I am in my right frame of mind. Grateful that I have a roof over my head and I have warmth. It is quite cold at this season. And to know that I am indoors and I have heat and I have food and I have water, I have the things that I need. And it just started to trickle down and thinking about, okay, this is the shift. This is the shift that I needed to move me out of a mood. And so sometimes that transformation comes from moment to moment to moment to moment. Now, you can use these suggestions that I'm offering for you today. And I encourage you to come up with the things that you can use as shifters to transform you from a mood where you're like, okay, I'm not feeling it, to where you say, ooh, I want to feel better in the next moment than I do right now. It's imperative for us to be able to even recognize when we're not feeling up to par, because it's in that moment that it gives us the opportunity for transformation to happen. So, on that note, I look forward to seeing you all again real soon in the next conversation. And if you're saying to yourself, I'm really trying to figure out how this transformation thing works for me. What do I need to do? How do I need to move some things out of my own way? The barriers that may be stopping me, maybe I don't even know what those barriers are. If you're starting to have those conversations with yourself, then yes, I do encourage you to reach out to me. You can go to my website at truesynergy.org. There's an opportunity for you to contact me so that we can have a 30 to 45-minute conversation about what it may look like for you in terms of transformation and how I can support you on that journey. So on that note, I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, take care and be well.